Hello my beautiful people, before we get into today's video, if you could just take a moment to hear me out, that would be appreciated. As many of you guys know, I am studying to get my university entrance credits because I left high school due to a lot things, and I seriously mean a lot of things. Mainly bullying and racism, and not even from the students, it was the teachers. I have never had it good or easy with education, so I literally just gave up with even trying. After I left school, I was at home for about 2 years, lost all my friends. Even though they were toxic, it still hurt to lose them. I ended up meeting depression and lovely social anxiety. I went from being extroverted to introverted real quick. My sleep pattern got so bad I was never awake during the day. I shut myself off from everyone. Until I found this amazing program at a university a few hours away from my hometown. I had this rush of hope and motivation and a new mindset, but I ran into many brick walls, one being leaving school early with 0 university entry requirements. Not only will this give me an opportunity to study abroad in Japan, but it will also be life-changing for me, challenge me with my social anxiety and just life skills, and to prove to myself I am worthy of a healthy education system. Only problem is I underestimated my time. I only had a few months to save a lot of money, and I definitely am not going to be able to save for tuition and accommodation. Now it's nearing Christmas and I have been laid off my job. Yes, I am currently looking for new jobs, but it is hard when the jobs that make the most amount of money require a lot of qualifications, and I am only 17 and no one really wants to be dealing with student workers. So I am asking you guys to help me out a little bit. I have made a GoFundMe. The link is in the description box below. I'm not expecting a lot from a single person or any at all really, but I thought I would give it a try. Just know you will be helping to change my life for the better. Thank you so much if you stayed to just listen. Now let's get on with this long-awaited video. I really was not expecting it to blow up as much as it did. I am so grateful for all the love and support you guys have given me. Oh, I nerd. Deku opened his eyes. He smiled at the way he could make out the blurry face in front of him was Kachan. He felt warm and cozy wrapped up in Bakuga's blankets. He breathed in, inhaling the smell of Kachan's scent masking the bedding. Stop smiling while you're half asleep, you little creep. Bakuga nudged at Deku's shoulder until the green-haired boy opened his eyes completely, now sleepily gazing at Bakuga's slightly annoyed face. Deku hummed, trying to push his weight up off the mattress only to be gently pushed back down to the soft warm bed. You don't have to get out of bed, but just letting you know your annoying extra friends will probably be here in a few hours. Huh? How? What about the? It blew over, I guess you could say. Bakuga stood up from his crouching position, continuing to tidy up his room. Deku was nuzzled into the blanket he was cuddling, smiling as he watched Bakuga sit at his desk and fold a small basket of clothes. Stop staring. Bakuga spoke without even looking in the direction of the green-eyed gaze. He could already feel Deku looking at him with a stupid smile. How long have I been asleep? Deku spoke softly. Like 20 minutes. Why? Deku could feel how warm the space behind him was, meaning Bakuga only just got out of bed. How come you moved? You were keeping me warm. Bakuga sighed, rolling his eyes, looking over at Deku, watching Deku's blushing face stare back, not breaking eye contact, like he normally does. This sent a weird feeling through Bakuga's stomach. It irritated him. He felt his cheeks heat up. He looked away, continuing to fold clothes. I got out of bed ages ago. Bakuga spoke sternly. I don't think so. Deku smiled. The teasing tone in his voice caused Bakuga's entire body to heat up again. Annoying. God, you're annoying. Deku smiled, sitting up in bed, his back against the wall. Bakuga looked over at him, catching his eyes on him for a few seconds. He sighed, getting up from the chair, rolling his eyes, groaning. Stay here. Deku watched as Bakuga left the room with a confused look on his face. He sat waiting for Bakuga. The urge to get up and walk around the room and snoop was strong. He was in Bakuga Katsuki's room, and in his bed. The only person he has seen enter his room is Kirishima and Denki. Even Bakuga was still hesitant, opening the door for them and letting them in and share his personal space. A few seconds of arguing with his thoughts. He would just look through the not so personal looking study items placed on his desk. Deku felt bad as he slid open the small plastic drawer containing a bunch of pens. Almig-themed pens. He smiled, pulling open the second drawer. A soft giggle as Almig-themed sticky notes and a Polaroid photo. It was in a small envelope. It was open, the corner of it was sticking out. It was obvious it was a photo. But of what? Just as Deku grabbed the corner of the small paper, the elevator door could be heard from down the hall. It opened and footsteps began approaching the room. Deku slowly closed the little plastic drawer. He hesitantly got back under the covers. Deku watched the door handle twist. The door opened. Bakugo stood with a tray of steaming food. Don't look at me like that. Don't say anything. And for the love of anyone, do not compliment anything. Bakugo watched as Deku desperately tried to keep his smile at bay. He quickly placed the tray on the desk, turning back around to close the door. Deku took the few seconds Bakugo's back was turned to smile widely, almost kicking his feet around in excitement, but he stopped himself as Bakugo turned his attention back to him. Deku straightened his back, keeping a serious look on his face. He watched as Bakugo handed him a small plate. A stack of strawberry and chocolate chip pickles sat perfectly in the middle of freshly cut strawberries. On the side of the fluffy stack, syrup and powdered sugar topping it off. Deku stared at the plate, his mouth slightly open. Kachan, this is well. Whatever. Deku took the plate, shifting towards the edge of the bed, ready to get off and eat at the desk with Kachan. Just stay there, it's still cold. Aren't you cold? I'm fine. I think I've had enough physical contact for the year. Deku let out a little giggle, earning a disgusted look from Bakugo, yet his cheeks had a shade of pink to them. Deku watched as Bakugo took a bite of his food before eating some himself. He wasn't surprised with the soft cake-like treat melted in his mouth. The sweetness from the powdered sugar was cut down with the sourness from the strawberry. His stomach began growling for more before he knew his plate was empty and his stomach was happy. Thank you, Kachan. That was amazing. What did I say, nerd? Bakugo got up, grabbing the plate from Deku. Avoiding eye contact at all cost, he headed towards the door. Once he closed the door behind him, he let his back rest against it. Fuck. Why the fuck is he making me feel like this? The blonde headed downstairs, cleaning the mess he made while cooking. Not even 2 minutes later, footsteps could be heard walking. Downstairs, lo and behold, Deku emerged from the corner Bakugo's side, turning his attention back to the dishes. Why don't you have a shirt on? Oh, I couldn't find mine, but I wanted to help. Of course, you did. You're a pain in the ass, you know. Bakugo turned to undo his apron, taking his black hoodie off and throwing it at Deku, who caught it mostly with his face. Thanks, and you know, so are you. Bakugo looked over as Deku walked over to the bench drying the dishes. He stopped, just watching as Deku's delicate hands put down the dried plates he previously washed. You okay, Kachan? Who? Shut up. Bakugo turned back to the sink before turning his gaze back to Deku. Did you call me a pain in the ass? Huh? Before I called you a pain in the ass, and you said. What? No. Deku put the pan down, backing away, holding his hands up defensively. Bakugo grinned, scoffing. He placed his hands under a cluster of bubbles in the sink, throwing them towards Deku. Water splashed at Deku along with a handful of bubbles. Deku squealed, jumping back. He dropped his arms to the side, pouting as water dripped from his curls to his face, bubbles soaking into the black fabric of Bakugo's hoodie. Oh, my Kachan. Deku whined, watching as Bakugo stared back at him with a shit-eating grin. Deku nodded, slowly stepping forward. Bakugo crossed his arms, watching closely. Really? Before Bakugo knew it, Deku's hand swiftly splashed water and bubbles in his direction. His hair dropped, sticking to his forehead. Deku almost curled over, laughing. He held his stomach, trying to calm the humor's noise. I'm so sorry. Deku laughed out, snorting as Bakugo stood in slight shock. Deku calmed down the moment he heard a snort come from Bakugo. He looked up to see Bakugo with a smile on his face. He was laughing. Bakugo Katsuki was genuinely laughing. You're an asshole. Bakugo giggled out. It was such a strange sound to Deku's ears. Even Bakugo was weirded out, but he couldn't stop. No matter how hard he wanted to be serious, he just couldn't. Soon they were splashing each other. Laughs filled the kitchen. The floor was drenched in soapy water along with their clothes. Oh caca. Shit. A loud crash as the dishes and themselves meet the ground. Bakugo lifted himself off Deku, hands planted next to the green curls before his hand slipped in the water again, Deku's hands pushing at Bakugo's chest holding him up. Are you okay? Did your head hit the floor? I'm fine. Bakugo almost let out a relieved sigh. PFT. It's not funny nerd, now we have to clean up more of a mess. Come on, it's pretty funny. Bakugo shook his head quietly giggling. See, pain in the ass. I am not. Clearly, you are. Really? Again the laughs bubbled up. It was out of their control, something about this, they were different. More comfortable in a way of saying it. They stopped after a few seconds of bantering between giggles. Even though Bakugo's arms were tired, he could not move. Looking down into those green eyes were intoxicating. Annoying stupid green eyes that were so hard to pull away from. Deku? Bakugo let the name roll off his tongue, softly speaking. Kacchan? God, what am I doing? Bakugo thought to himself as he lowered his body to Deku's, their faces almost inches away as Deku's hand found his way to Bakugo's cheek, stroking it softly. The closer they got, the more their heartbeats speed up, beating in their ears, cheeks burning red. Everything felt blurry as time had stopped, leaving them together and only them. Deku stared back in those burning eyes, a expression he had never seen on Bakugo before. It had him feeling completely astonished. As soon as Deku lifted his head to close space. Kacchan. Deck. Deku's attention was pulled from Bakugo to a hand on Bakugo's shoulder, pulling him off Deku and throwing him across the floor almost into the lounge area. Kacchan. What the fuck, eh? Icy hot. Eureka ran over to Deku, helping him up off the ground. Kirishima ran over, pulling Bakugo up from the ground only to be nudged back. Soon Bakugo was in Todoroki's face, Kirishima trying to push himself in between them. This was the first time Todoroki had an expression other than neutral or a soft smile. He looked mad. Todoroki-kun? Are you okay, Izuku? I'm fine, WH. What the fuck was that for, icy hot? Were you hurting Midoriya? Todoroki spoke accusingly, small explosions popping from Bakugo's palm, the sweet smell of nitroglycerine filling the room. What? Do you think it would hurt him? Well, I wouldn't put it past you, Bakugo. Hey, guys, let's not yet. What? Is that what all of you think of me? Bakugo shouted as he looked past Todoroki at his classmates. He sounded hurt. He looked hurt. Fuck you, icy hot, so much for being friends, right? He shoved Kirishima's hand from his shoulder, storming past Todoroki, throwing his hands in his pockets. Kacchan. Bakugo. Midori. Do you guys really think he would hurt me like that? Wah. Deku walked over to everyone standing in front of Todoroki. Are you okay? You know I could have been the one hurting Kacchan. I see, I assumed the worst. I am sore. I'm disappointed in all of you guys. Deku walked away, following the direction of Bakugo. He stood at Bakugo's door. Kacchan? Deku spoke softly. Go away, nerd. Bakugo responded, not yelling, no swear words or angry grunts, he just sounded tired. I am sorry they did that to you. Stop apologizing for others' actions. It's not how it works. Bakugo's voice sounded muffled this time. Can I come in? No. Kacchan, you have to learn that pushing away the people that care about you isn't going to solve anything. It's not like I care what those stupid extras think of me anyway. Deku sighed, his hand moving before thinking. He pushed open Bakugo's door. He looked back, hearing footsteps running up the stairs. He slammed the door. Instinct and panic kicked in. Bakugo lifted his head from his pillow, sitting up, looking confused and pissed off all at once. What? Sorry. Deku mouthed as a knock came from the outside. Bakugo gave an unimpressed smile, rolling his eyes. Bakubro, don't be mad, it was just misunderstanding. Yeah, come on, we didn't think that stuff. Sorry. Deku mouthed again, walking over to Bakugo. He got a shut up whisper yelled at him. Deku reached Bakugo's bed, standing in front of the blonde. You look like a wet dog. Bakugo whispered, throwing a towel that was sitting at the end of his bed. Deku caught it and placed it on top of his head, drying his wet hair, smiling at a grumpy looking Bakugo. Dude, we can hear you moving around in there. Bakugo rolled his eyes watching the door. He turned back frowning to see Deku trying to take off the wet hoodie. Jesus, Deku. Sorry. They both yell as Bakugo stands trying to pull the hoodie off Deku. Okay, stop moving that way Don't pull it that way, Kachan. What is going on in there? I have no idea. Does it sound like he's struggling? Number way. Okay, look, you need to stop moving. Bakugo grabbed Deku's shoulders, holding him still. Deku's arm was up in the air, while his other arm and head was stuck in the hoodie. Okay. Deku whispered, staying still as Bakugo yanked the hoodie. Deku falling forward, knocking himself and Bakugo on the bed behind them. For fuck's sakes, Deku. Bakugo sighed out as Deku sat atop of him. Sorry, but you pulled too hard. Aha, sure. Deku tried getting off Bakugo only for his hips to be held in place, stopping his movements. Kachan? Deku stared down at Bakugo looking confused. Ugh. Bakugo laid back on his bed, his hands loosening on Deku's hips, falling to his thighs. I don't fucking know, Deku. This is why I don't do stupid feelings. Bakugo mumbled into his hands, Deku just barely picking up the words. Feelings? Deku leant forward on Bakugo, wanting him to speak more on the subject. You sometimes have the brain of a dunce face, you know. Bakugo sat up, closing body space between the two. The fast action caught Deku off guard, his arms falling around Bakugo's shoulders. Bakugo let his hand rest at Deku's waist and the other trail up to the green curls as they looked each other in the eyes, not saying a thing, letting the tension of the moment build. Bakugo's mind was racing at the fact all he had to do was one swift movement to break this longing of emotional closure, to break the tension in the room. It made his skin crawl. Yet he stayed there not moving. He wanted Deku to close the space connecting them together. It felt right letting Deku decide something for their complicated relationship and start a fresh slate. Do you think he's okay? He would have told us to, by now. Kirishima grabbed the door handle, pushing the door open. He and Kamanari stood in the doorway, shocked as Bakugo and Deku's eyes locked with theirs. Wah. Kamanari screamed as Deku jumped off Bakugo, quickly leaving the room, pushing past the two stunned boys. Ugh. Fuck you, shitty hair. Bakugo yelled, throwing a pillow at the two. You to dunce face. Bro, what was that? What the fuck do you think it was, huh? Oh, my god. Shut up and get out. Wanna talk about it? Kirishima. Bakugo sat up, looking over at Kirishima. He was visibly upset. It sent a shiver up both the boys' spine to see Bakugo not mad but upset. Right. Okay, well, if you need an. I know, shitty hair. Bakugo turned his back to the two boys, leaving his room. He let his face fall into his blankets, groaning. The frustration boiled in his blood. He needed a distraction for once. He just wanted that nerd out of his head. He got up, throwing a tank top on, walking out of his dorm, listening for any type of movement, not wanting to run into anyone and especially not icy hot or round face. He slowly jogged down the stairs, stopping for a moment, scanning the area. Ponytail was sitting on the floor with ears playing with her hair. He rolled his eyes, scanning the other side of them room, icy hot round face and four eyes all chatting. They looked serious. He couldn't care less of what they were talking about, until he heard his name. It's just Bakugo. I still don't trust him with Midoriya. Bakugo growled and stormed out past them all to the door, making sure to slam it on his way out. He made his way to a square of the concert everyone uses as a basketball court for class matches on the weekends. He didn't waste time warming up. He started sparring with the air, practicing new forms of punches and then kicks. He didn't stop now, even when the sweet smell was intoxicating. Deku, are you okay? I'm fine. He walked into the living room area, sitting next to Todoroki and Eureka. You don't have to tell us, but what was with you earlier? Everyone's attention fell on Deku, awaiting an answer. We were playing around and doing dishes and it got slippery. And we assumed the worst. I'm sorry Midoriya, I shouldn't have assumed something like that. You shouldn't have, but you did. Everyone was taken aback by Deku's response. Deku's eyes widened, shocked with the way his words came out. It's just what I am trying to say is that I do understand why. You might have thought the worst, but Bakugo has come a long way and you guys showed him that he hasn't grown at all. When he hasn't, and I. It's okay, we understand. We are sorry Midoriya. I'm not the one you guys should be apologizing to. Right. Have you guys seen him? I tried his dorm but he. A loud pop of an explosion rang outside. Everyone jumped to their feet looking in the direction of the door. Kacchan? Everyone ran towards the door and Deku stopped them in their tracks. No, I think you guys have done enough. He opened the front door, dashing out. The cold wind hitting his warm face felt like tiny needles stabbing at his cheeks. His mind was racing with thoughts. He knew that noise came from the court. It's where he knows Bakugo trains late at night. Kacchan, please don't be in any trouble. As he turned the corner of a building, the sweet smell of nitroglycerine filled his nostrils. It was stronger than usual. He found Bakugo crouched over his back, facing him, hands in front of his face. Kacchan. He almost fell forward, grabbing Bakugo's shoulder, turning him to face him. Deku was taken aback. The small-sized crater in the ground smoked in front of Bakugo. His fingertips looked so red and purple, the palms of his hands fuming red. Are you hurt? It took Bakugo a moment to calm his heavy breathing. He stood tall, coming to his senses as Deku's worried look became more clear. The grip Deku had on his shoulders could be felt a few moments before. Everything was a blur and everything was so hot and overwhelming. Hey. I'm a fine nerd. He huffed. Come sit down, please. No, I don't need to. What happened? Do you even need to ask? No matter how much I try, I can't be different, Deku. Hey, it's okay Kacchan, you don't have to explain yourself. But you think I will never change, am I right? What number? Deku spoke defensively, earning a scoff from Bakugo. You're just like everyone else, Deku, but I don't blame you. I've given you nothing but reasons to doubt me. The words sounded bitter on Bakugo's tongue, like he was being controlled to say these things. Even his voice made him want to throw up. He sounded so weak to himself. He hated every second of it, of feeling so vulnerable. That's all he ever feels like around Deku, but this was different. It was pulling at his chest painfully. Kacchan, that would mean looking down on you. I have never once looked down on you, ever. I respect you and I see past all the things that you have done because I see so much in you. I see so much more than just a short-tempered future hero. Bakugo felt dizzy and sick. God, why does this nerd have to make me feel like this? You should hate me. Why can't you just hate me? Bakugo grabbed at his shirt and it felt tight against his chest, just like ground beater all over again. Breathing hurt, standing hurt, everything just hurt. Deku watched as Bakugo broke in front of him. It brought tears brimming at the corner of his eyes. So he did what he knew he could do best. He let his arms pull the taller boy close to him. He felt Bakugo's chest beat against his hitched breathing slowed, and despite Bakugo feeling so tense, Deku didn't let go. Kacchan, it's okay, you can. A small sob came from Bakugo. Deku felt arms wrap around his back, pulling him in tightly. I never wanted you to change as a person. I wanted you to grow. I wanted both of us to grow together. Deku softly spoke into Bakugo's ear. It's always been you. Bakugo whispered to Deku, just barely picking it up. Bakugo pulled away. He felt so out of the body, talking softly and about how he just felt so out of character. I don't know why or how, I'm just realizing it, but you have always been there no matter what. You saw me for more than an explosive quirk and temper, and I was Bakugo laughed in disbelief. I'm an asshole. He let his hands cup Deku's cheeks. I am so sorry, Izuku. I really am, for everything Bakugo, being more of action speak louder than words, let his hands pull Deku's face close to his. He let their noses touch, not closing any more space. Kacchan. Deku softly whispered, his lips barely moving to get the words out. You gonna let someone interrupt this one too? Bakuga spoke softly, sending a shiver through Deku's body. He let his hands touch Bakuga's that was cupping his cheeks. Your call, Izuku. Bakuga pulled back slightly, tilting his head when he felt Deku lean in, and he closed his eyes as the feeling of Deku's soft lips collided with his. Bakuga knew absolutely nothing about kissing. It was never on his mind until today. So he waited for Deku, but their lips stayed pressed together softly until Deku pulled away. Bakuga pulled Deku in by his waist, keeping him close. Keikaka. Kiss me, nerd. I just, what was that? Number like this. The blonde had absolutely no idea what he was doing, but he knew he wanted more. He usually hated the way butterflies filled his stomach around Deku and the way his cheeks felt hot, but now it was an intoxicating feeling. He leant in, parting his lips slightly, pushing his lips to Deku's. He felt him push back. Deku melted into this kiss, moving his head in a way, getting more access to Bakuga's lips as the hesitant moved them together with the tips of their tongues brushing together. They pulled away. Deku started giggling, tears forming in the corners in his eyes. Why are you crying? I am happy, Keikachan. God, you're such a crybaby. Bakuga pulled Deku in for a hug. Deku buried his face in Bakuga's chest, sniffling. Nerd, stop getting your tears all over me. Bakuga rested his head atop of Dekus, the green curls tickling his cheek. A good 2 minutes passed. Bakuga tried pulling away, only to be pulled back in by Deku's strong grip. Sigh, Deku. Come on. Bakuga groaned, trying to pry Deku from his body. Do I need to carry you or some shit? Are you going to blow me up if I say yes? Deku mumbled into Bakuga's chest, lifting his head up to meet Bakuga's red eyes. Yes, maybe no. Probably. Bakuga smirked as Deku let go. He smiled as Bakuga let his thumbs wipe tears away from his eyes. We should probably head inside before the others wonder what's going on. Bakuga began walking back towards the dormitory, Deku by his side. They walked inside, all eyes fell on them. Bakuga rolled his eyes in response, walking past everyone. He looked back, stopping, watching Deku stand there looking lost. Hurry up, nerd, I want to take a shower and rest. Deku tried hiding the blush on his face, looking away from everyone, getting completely flustered. Why you want? Come hang in my room before we have to leave. I'm not saying I'm eavesdropping, but what? Shut it, dunce face. Deku walked past his classmates, smiling. I will see you guys later, before we leave again. Deku felt bad that he was ditching his friends who came all the way back to the dorms to see if he and Bakuga were okay after the blizzard, but he would be lying if he said he didn't want to spend as much time with Bakuga before break. Now more than anything, with their newfound friendship, he wasn't really sure where they stood. Before he knew it, they reached Bakuga's dorm. Walking in, he watched as Bakuga walked into the bathroom. Stop staring at me. I won't belong. Deku nodded, walking over, sitting at Bakuga's desk chair. He found himself looking at the small plastic drawers sitting atop of his desk. The photo, he groaned in frustration, laying his head on the hard surface. His eyes caught a pair of glasses sitting behind the little drawers. He sat up, grabbing them. Reading glasses? Deku giggled to himself. All the years he knew Bakuga, he would never have guessed. He stood up, walking over to the bed, sitting down. Bakuga let cold water run over his skin. He hated cold, true, but that lash out earlier made him burn hot in a way he didn't know could hurt the way it did. Maybe it was more of his emotions than physical, but still. He looked down at his hands. Rough patches forming on the pads of his fingers. He groaned, washing away the soot that lingered. He turned off the water, stepping out of the shower, wrapping the towel around his waist. He hesitantly opened the door, stepping out. He watched as Deku, eyes widened, face burning red. Be a perv or not, I don't care. Bakuga shrugged, a sly smirk on his face as he walking to his closet, opening the door, blocking his body from view as he changed. Deku awkwardly averted his gaze until he heard the closet door close. Bakuga left the towel on his shoulders. He walked over to his desk, observing it. He turned his head, raising an eyebrow. Did you take something, nerd? Deku's cheeks grew even redder. Izuku? Bakuga's cheeks dusted a light pink. The word still not tasting right on his tongue, but it had a visible effect on Deku. Bakuga walked over to Deku, standing in front of him. Keikachan. Deku was used to being flustered, but this was something he didn't feel regularly, not even with a round face. His mind was fuzzy. A shirtless Bakugo stood in front of him, wet hair and a mischievous grin on his face. He knew Katsuki was enjoying this. Why you? You what? Bakugo moved closer, pushing himself to stand in between Deku's legs. Deku jumped at the close contact. I didn't know that you. Deku grabbed the glasses from behind him, holding them in front of Bakugo. That I wore glasses. Yeah, no one knows. Except you. Now no. Deku smiled, feeling a sense of confidence. He found himself letting his hands move before thinking. He trailed his fingers up the sides of Bakugo's ribs. Bakugo grabbed Deku's wrist, holding it in place. Even though Bakugo wasn't the best with physical contact, he knew he wanted to get better at it. Scratch that, he wanted to be the best at it. Deku caught his gaze. They kept eye contact as Bakugo moved Deku's hand around his torso, tracing the outlines of his refined abs. Deku watched as Bakugo's smirk flattened out into a focused look, searching his eyes for some answers. Bakugo let go of Deku's hand. He reached down to grab the glasses from Deku, putting them on. This what you wanted to see? Why yo wow. What? You look ridiculously hot. Deku sighed out in awe, only to cover his face in embarrassment. Ha. Don't be so shy all the time. I mean, it's cute, but it's hot when you're straightforward. Bakugo confessed, letting his hand ruffle Deku's curls. Okay, so. Deku let out a composed sigh. What are we? Like, what is this? What did you want us to be? I don't know. I mean, I like you, Kachan. No shit. Deku sighed, looking away from Bakugo, only for his gaze to be pulled back by Bakugo grabbing his chin. Bakugo leant in, placing a kiss on Deku's lips, pulling away a few inches. Want to be my boyfriend? Awesome. Deku pulled Bakugo down on the bed, giggling. Oh, I be careful. Deku smiled, letting his fingers intertwine in Bakugo's hair, playing with strands. I will take that as a yes, right? Yes. Deku smiled up at Bakugo, who was just taking in that smile that irritated him so much because of how much it affected him. You are beautiful. Bakugo let his hand stroke Deku's cheek. I always have known that. That's one thing I knew. Kachan. Don't start crying. Okay. Deku giggled out, leaning into Bakugo's hand. He didn't want to move anywhere else from this moment. It was perfect. Unreal. It felt like he was floating on cloud 9, and so was Bakugo. Hey Kachan. Are your hands okay? Huh? Why would they not be? Bakugo sat up, Deku doing the same, their knees touching. Bakugo let Deku grab his hands, letting a scared thumb touch the palm of his hand. Does it hurt? No, I'm used to it. Plus I have a high pain tolerance. He shrugged, watching Deku's unconvinced look, and he sighed dramatically. But you still feel it. Just because you can tolerate it doesn't mean it's not going to hurt. Bakugo stared back at Deku. He watched as brought his hand to his lips, placing kisses on his palm. Bakugo didn't know his hands would be this sensitive to someone else's touch. He flinched at the sensation, butterflies swarming in his stomach. He felt his cheeks heat up, quickly covering his mouth with his other hand. Sorry, did that hurt? No, idiot. What's wrong? Shut up. Kachan. Deku spoke in a teasing tone, leaning forward only to be pushed back, falling against Bakugo's pillows. He let out an outburst of laughs as Bakugo tickled his sides. Kirishima lifted his head from his phone along with everyone else. Is someone laughing? And is it Deku, in Bakugo's room? What the hell happened in the time of the blizzard? Maybe all they needed was to be left online together for them to work things out? Yeah, sounds like it.